So what's the best approach to learning Spanish, especially if you're just starting out and you're looking for the best Spanish lessons? Well, first you need to be aware that over 90% of people who try to learn conversational Spanish fail. And usually this is because they just didn't choose the right approach to start with. And this begs the question, the very important question, which is what's missing from their approach which is causing them to fail? In other words, what areas of learning Spanish are they not covering, and are the courses which they chose to learn not helping them out enough? Well, let's look at some of the characteristics of the best beginning Spanish lessons. And firstly, these incorporate structured daily practice. You need to get daily practice, so if the approach that you're using or following is not getting you daily practice, then you're just not going to succeed. But there's one more vitally important element, and this is overlooked in many situations. But to succeed at successfully learning Spanish, you need interactive immersion, complete conversations and complete sentences. There's not really no ifs and buts about it. And the reason for this is that to speak Spanish, you need to be thinking in Spanish, and only by getting familiar with sentence structure and the flow of the Spanish language will you ever have any chance of thinking in Spanish and thinking out your sentences and structuring them as a Spanish speaker would. So you need to be thinking in Spanish, and you need to choose an approach which gets you thinking in Spanish and not thinking in English. And that's hard for English speakers because obviously thinking in English comes naturally, and that's a natural process for speaking and conversing which you need to overcome. And it's exposure to Spanish conversation which is going to get you there. And if you choose Spanish lessons which incorporate audio features which give you immersion and give you exposure to real conversations, well, you're on the right track, and you can be basically conversational in Spanish in 8 weeks or less, and that's with the hour of practice a day that we mentioned earlier. Certainly you're not going to be fluent, and ignore all those claims about being able to speak Spanish fluently in 8 weeks, because that's just rubbish, and that's just completely inaccurate information. But where you will get is to the point of being able to hold basic conversations, and you'll use those basic conversations over time with practice and more practice to get better and better at your Spanish. Speaking Spanish is something which needs constant reinforcement, and it's not like riding a bicycle where you never forget. You need practice, and you need to engage in conversations on a regular and ongoing basis after the fairly intensive first 8-week period in order to reinforce your learning and get better and better and better. But if you want to find out more about some of the best beginning Spanish lessons which offer great value and really offer the most effective Spanish course for getting started and for getting to that basic conversational level as quickly as possible, check out some further information at stronglyrecommended.com. You can click the URL in the video description below and learn about a good beginner course which will introduce you to the basics, get you conversational in 8 weeks if you strictly follow the program, and will do that in the most efficient manner possible by giving you the exposure that you need to the conversations, real conversations and real situations in Spanish, and get you to the point where you're thinking in Spanish as you try to form Spanish sentences. And once you get to that point, you know you're on the road to success, because you know that you've mastered the sentence structure and the language structure, and everything else really falls into place with amazing ease once you pass that threshold. The problem is that many people never reach that threshold in the first place. So choose wisely with your beginning Spanish lessons, and make sure that they include the audio immersion, which is so important for getting you that exposure to sentence structure, and you'll be pleasantly surprised at how quickly you are able to hold basic Spanish conversations and engage with other Spanish speakers, and that's the foundation you need for really getting to conversational Spanish level as quickly as possible. Hope you enjoyed this video, and good luck with your Spanish learning. Thanks.